Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Van Kirk. I am the chair of the trustees of the Opiate Trust, and would like to call this meeting to order. Couple of announcements before we start with this public meeting. First, the meeting is being recorded, so anybody that will be deemed by staying on this phone to consent to the recording of the meeting. Secondly, because it is a public meeting, I would like to say that the meeting has been duly advertised as a public meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act, and is therefore open to members of the public as observers. Actual participation in the meeting is limited to members of the trust and those that the trust have invited in advance to take part. With that, I think we will take the roll. Shay Madden?
Here.
Robert Postal?
Here.
Kevin Bosel?
Here.
Gene Wright?
Here.
Jim Gregory? Aaron Dalton?
Present on her behalf.
Thank you. Steve Jasper? Gene, I'm sorry, I always mangle your name, Gene. Gene Durilli Almo. Christine Tartaglione.
Here.
Senator Greg Rothman. Secretary Latika Davis Jones. Here. Mark Rossi. Okay, there is a quorum present at the meeting, so the meeting is called to order with a quorum, and we are able to conduct business. Do we have members of the public that are attending this meeting?
We do.
Okay. Because this is the first public meeting, I would like to take this opportunity, and we have several items of business that we're going to conduct afterwards, but I just want to bring everybody up to speed on some of what we have done as a trust since its creation in July of last year. The trust was created by order of the Commonwealth Court to collect and distribute funds received as a result of opioid settlements that were entered into by the Office of the Attorney General, Pennsylvania, and as a result of the efforts of many lawyers representing litigating subdivisions within the state. Money was received last year from by way of settlement, and we immediately started meeting as soon as we had enough people appointed. There are 13 members of the trust, 5 appointed by the counties, divided into districts around the state, 2 by the governor's office, the chairman, myself, and one other person, and Latika Davis Jones from DDAP is the governor's other appointee. We have 1 member elected by the County of Allegheny, 1 person selected by the City of Philadelphia, and 1 person, 4 people representing the Pennsylvania legislature, 1 from each of the legislative caucuses in the House and the Senate. We've had approximately 5 meetings during the year, and wanted to meet as soon as we could directly after the trust was created, even though many of the people that were to be appointed had not yet been selected. In fact, we've added probably 3 people just in the last month and a half alone. We are now at the full complement of 13 trustees, but we did want to start meeting as a trust in order to set up the apparatus, in order to be able to distribute money as quickly as possible. We were prepared to get money from, the first money's meal came in from J&J, and was able to come in August. We had to select a bank. We went out with a request for proposals to 3 separate banking institutions, all of whom are household names in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We did select M&T, doing business as Wilmington Trust, for a number of reasons. They were, number one, the best cost proposal, but number two, they also were working with several other states and also with the National Trust, so that they had familiarity with the information that was needed and how to go about distributing the funds. We immediately told the Johnson & Johnson that we were prepared to receive funds after we got the bank set up, and let the payees know how to give us the information so that the money could be given out. The way the money was allocated was through a process. I happen to act as the mediator of a stakeholder group of about 85 people in Pennsylvania who decided how the money would be distributed to the different entities in Pennsylvania, remembering that in order to get the full complement of money from any of these settling defendants, we had to be able to represent that the state and also all litigating subdivisions and all counties in the state and all municipalities over 10,000 were participating. Our goal was to develop an allocation formula that would be equally unsatisfactory to everybody, in hopes of getting as many people signed on as possible. The method was to allocate the money going to the counties. All 67 counties would get 70% of any funds that came in. Expenses would be paid off at the top from the 100%. 15% would go to litigating counties and subdivisions, and 15% would go to the state. I would say that there was also quite a process as to how the money would be allocated among different counties. It isn't done just on population. It was based upon a number of opioid abuse cases that had been reported, and a lot of metrics that we developed, much in conjunction with the assistance of the Penn State University, who had a group that presented different metrics and really got equal buy-in from everyone, to the point where people were satisfied with signing up and agreeing to the allocation formula. That is the manner in which we now follow to distribute the money. The additional things that are going to be done by the trust is to continue to work with the Attorney General's office to make provision, because additional settlements are being reached. You will hear about 5 of those prospective settlements this afternoon. And when settlements are reached, and depending upon the number of people signing on, we will obtain the money, and once again, we will then work at distributing that money once again through Wilmington Trust. I would also say that our ongoing responsibility after distributing the money is to see that the money is being spent in accordance with the settlement agreements that were reached with the individual defendants. All of the defendants had attached to the settlement agreements that were signed with them in order to obtain the money from the settlements were given pursuant to an Exhibit E, which sets forth a number of uses, but the money is to be spent on opioid abatement and methods of educating the public and trying to help all of the payees in developing programs and supporting programs that hopefully can help us overcome this this epidemic and that is confronting not just the Commonwealth, but is being confronted nationally. We've had a number of conversations. We intend to be as transparent as possible. The manner in which the money is being distributed, the allocation formula that I just mentioned is all set forth in the orders of the Commonwealth Court, all of which is available to the public. We are going to be discussing today hiring an administrator. The Attorney General has been doing it for us up until this point, but we are now turning this over, hopefully to the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, pursuant to a proposal that they have made to us. We're going to be developing a website. The website will be used for a number of purposes, but one of those purposes is going to be to announce when the meetings are, to post the minutes of the meetings, and we will be posting the minutes of all meetings that we've had up to this point, once the website is up and running, which we are hopeful will be done by the end of April. So we have been very active thus far. We did feel it very important to get the money out to the counties as quickly as we could receive it, which is one of the reasons we moved forward even before we had the full complement of 13 trustees. It might be of interest for you to know that thus far, in 2 tranches, one of the monies we received in August from J&J and the monies we received in December, both from J&J and the distributors that had settled as of that time. The state has received $130 million, of which almost 72 million were paid out to the counties, the 67 counties out of that 70% fund. 15.3 million was paid to the state, and 15.3 million was also paid to the litigating county and subdivisions, which could cause some overlap with the county. So of the 130 million that we received, it was spent in that manner, but we also had to incur 16 million of court-ordered costs that were incurred by the litigating counties and subdivisions that were paid off at the top and were reviewed by the Court of Common Pleas of Delaware County and approved by a special master. Those were paid out, and also 11.4 million in other fees. So the entire amount of monies that we received were paid out, and we will promptly, when the monies come in on a regular annual basis over different periods of time, they are to come in over 10 years in cases of the distributors and Janssen, up to 18 years. There are different payout periods for the settlements that we'll be discussing today. So we have been very active. We have been fulfilling our court-required duties and tried to be as transparent as possible, including answering questions as they come in from the press. It is our intention to be as transparent as possible. This is money that is not taxpayer money, but it is money that belongs to the citizens of the Commonwealth, and we have every intention of letting them know how the money is being spent. So if there's no questions about that, I would like to move on to proposal to retain the County Commissioner Association of Pennsylvania to perform administrative responsibilities. As we discussed in the executive session prior to this meeting, we did receive a proposal from CCAP to provide both for administrative services and also to provide for website development, as I previously discussed in my earlier remarks. For the administrative services, they will provide support services to the trust if we accept this proposal. For meeting planning and execution, they will provide for the liaison between local governments, not just the counties, local governments, everybody receiving the money, and the trust. They will provide for local government collaboration and for that, they will be charging approximately $101,000 for a full fiscal year, $7,000 in operational costs, so that the total annual cost for the scope of work that I just outlined is approximately $113,000, which I personally, and I believe we felt at the educational meeting before this, was a reasonable amount. It will be prorated for year 2023 based upon when the contract is entered into. So that will be the basic cost for the administrative work, and I can tell you it really is greatly needed. The amount of work getting the materials out to the counties and letting them get the proper information to Wilmington Trust so they can obtain the money is a tremendous amount of work. One we hope that full development of the website will really help us with. But the website development is an additional cost over and above that. For the website development, they are going to provide the website development and the hosting services in support of the trust. They will obtain so that will be full development of the website. We had a discussion of this in the informational meeting prior to this, and we will be accepting a lot of input as to everything that will be on the trust website, but we are intending that it will get information to the counties, to all the payees of the funds as to when they can expect money. It will be able to receive information from the payees as to where the money ought to be paid and into what accounts. It will also be used to provide them information with exactly what the funds are that they will receive from any given settlement. It will also be used as we move forward to collect the information as to how the counties spent the money so that the trust can perform its function of making sure that the money was spent for purposes that are authorized by the Exhibit E of the settlement agreements. There will be also sections devoted to the public so that we can satisfy our transparency requirements and provide minutes of all the meetings that we have had, both informational and public meetings, and other information that the public might want to know. We're also going to use it to develop what we're calling frequently asked questions. A number of questions have been asked by the counties and all of the payees as to how the money can be spent, because I will say, in working with the counties thus far, everybody wants to do the right thing. They do not want to spend this for frivolous purposes. They all recognize the seriousness of the opioid crisis and are hell-bent on making sure that the money is spent. They just want to make sure that it is spent for what is authorized by the different settlement agreements. We are authorized at the end of the year to make a judgment, and we are going to get information out to everybody that receives money as to what it was used, so that they can let us know what it was used for, and if it wasn't used for the right thing, we have the ability to not make any further payments until they start using it for the right thing. Hopefully it will never come to that, but that's one of the reasons that we're getting the questions that we are before they spend the money, so that they don't run the risk of not being able to obtain money on a going forward basis. So we will be using the website for that, and obviously accepting a lot of input as to what information will be on the website, what information will be required. We also hope to be able to develop programs that will obtain the effectiveness. It's one thing to spend the money on programs that are authorized by the settlement agreements and by Exhibit E. It's another thing to make sure that it is the best use of the money. Okay, so people might be able to spend money on item A and it's completely authorized by Exhibit E, but there might be a lot of better uses of that money. One county may be able to help another, and the more information that is shared as to effectiveness of the programs, the more we can get to the bottom of what this money is supposed to be used for, which is to hopefully end the opioid epidemic crisis. So in addition to developing the website, they will obtain the website domain, which they have already done. The trust will be the owner of the website domain, but they will procure it for us. They will also provide the website hosting and support. The total cost for the content maintenance in year 2023 will be $12,700. And there will be an additional hosting cost and other domain costs for a total of about $15,000. And it is estimated that the development of the initial content will be another $10,000, and the estimated yearly recurring hosting cost will be $2,700. So we would like to enter into this as soon as possible in order that we can get the website up and running, make sure that we are starting to collect the information and aid everybody in performing the administrative work that has to be done by the trust. So I would accept the motion that we accept the proposal of CCAP to do the administrative work and to do the website development as I just discussed.
Before you take a motion, may I ask one thing?
Yes, you may.
Only because I scanned this as quickly as I could. I didn't see an out language in it. So 90-day out or.
There is, for breach of the agreement, it is going to be a 3-year contract. It is going to be evergreen after that as part of the 12-page master services agreement that was worked out. But if anybody is in breach, it can be canceled for that, and there are force majeure clauses in it. We wanted to give it an initial 3-year run. I hope it lasts for 15 years, but we wanted to give it an initial 3-year run because of all of the development work that goes into it. We think that's fair to both sides, but we do, it is evergreen thereafter, so we'll be judged on a yearly basis. Any other questions? Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second? I understand that because this is with CCAP, there are several members of the trust that have to abstain from this. If you would identify yourself now as that you are abstaining because you are a member of CCAP, then I'll proceed to have the vote.
Kevin Boozle, CCAP board, and so I'll be abstaining, Butler County Commissioner.
Robert Postal, if a county commissioner on the CCAP board, I will be abstaining.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, hearing nobody else, we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, appreciate it, and that will let us now move on to the second item on the agenda, which is going to be a discussion of the settlements that are prospective. And that will be done by Neil Nara, who has been extensively involved in negotiating these settlements. And hopefully we can bring it to fruition, so we will be receiving even more than the $1 billion that is already going to come into Pennsylvania as a result of the previous settlements. Good idea. Thank you.
Shay second.
I'm sorry, we're having a difficult time hearing the conversation.
Excuse me?
They were just clarifying who made the motion on the acceptance of the CCAP agreement.
Yeah, so who made the motion then?
I did. Senator Tartaglia.
Thank you. What is being reviewed here, I will say, has been reviewed by the stakeholders. Information has gone out to all of the prospective payees pursuant to a stakeholder meeting that we had about 3 weeks ago. I participated in it more as the person who helped mediate the way the initial monies were going to be allocated, and not in my role as chair of the trust. The trust really does not have anything to do with these settlements, other than, I think I noted in a prior meeting, I think by virtue of paying out the money as promptly as we received it before, might have whetted everybody's appetite to enter into these settlements also. So we might have had that role, but other than that, this is not a trust responsibility to reach the settlement. The AG reaches the settlement, it's signed off on by the respective counties, and then we receive the money from the settlements and take care of the distribution. Neil.
Thank you. My name is Neil Mara. I'm a Chief Deputy Attorney General here in Pennsylvania, asked to join the meeting by Chairman Van Kirk. Just to very, very briefly explain where things stand, as Chair Van Kirk just indicated, the trust receives the money and distributes the money. Getting the money to the trust through these settlements is the task of the Attorney General's office and counsel for local subdivisions for the counties and the municipalities. Very briefly, you'll see on this first slide, we refer to a Wave 2 settlement overview. Wave 1 in our sort of internal parlance was the distributor and Janssen settlement, the 3 major distributors in Janssen, which occurred last year. These Wave 2 settlements will follow the same course as those settlements followed for purposes of settling them. Before I start my brief comments, I invite anyone on the Zoom or anyone in the room to visit a very valuable website, nationalopioidsettlement.com. It's nationalopioidsettlement.com. It is a very useful resource. It has, for example, all of the settlement agreements. If anyone is interested in getting into deep complexities and technicalities, you'll be able to read the entirety of each of these 5 settlement agreements. Fortunately, they make it more user-friendly by providing executive summaries on that website and frequently asked questions, among a variety of other resources available there. As I've told people previously, the resources available on that website are better than anything I'm going to say here this afternoon, so I invite your attention to those websites. Moving along, just a little more context. The opioid defendants, as many know, this has been going on for 5 or 6 years. There were 3 major categories of corporate defendants in the opioid litigation. The first category would be opioid manufacturers, those who made the pills. The second category would be opioid distributors, those companies that moved the opioid pills from the manufacturers and distributed them to hospitals and pharmacies and doctors' offices throughout the country. The third major category were national pharmacy chains who had a legal duty to follow certain practices and procedures to ensure that illicit opioids or opioids under suspicious circumstances were not prescribed and were not distributed. So here we have Teva and Allergan. They are two of the manufacturer category. The distributors all settled in the wave 1 settlements, so they are out of the picture. And these are 3 of the 4 main pharmacy chains that were sued coast to coast in the opioid litigation. So I'm just going to very briefly provide just a quick overview. This figure, the combined maximum value for Pennsylvania, it assumes what we call the best case scenario. Built into these settlements are provisions requiring a certain number of Pennsylvania counties, cities, and the state to agree to the settlement agreement. The companies all talk about they want global peace from litigation. They don't want to be fighting opioid litigation for the next 50 years. So they want to get settlement sign-on from the maximum number of towns, counties, and the state in Pennsylvania. Though there is an incentive, financial incentive built into the settlement agreements to incentivize municipalities and counties to join these settlement agreements. This number reflects the best case scenario where we are assuming we get maximum participation from Pennsylvania counties and municipalities and townships. So that's a best case number. If we fall short of that level of agreement by the various political subdivisions, the value of the settlement comes down according to a fairly complicated formula. But this is the best case scenario. So now we just move, and again, very briefly, you'll see here is the settlement from Teva. Note the amount, 3.34 billion, note the number of years. Each one of these companies was very sophisticated, very ably represented. Negotiations went on over multiple years and were arm's length and very, very vigorous. So you'll see different values here. Again, the Pennsylvania share, the projected share is a best case scenario of that 3.34 billion nationally for Teva. Then the slide shows what I called some of the inside baseball on the incentive program built into the settlements to try and maximize participation. The other thing that you'll note for all of these settlements, so it would be the number, the financial number, the amount of years. Also, you'll see it says key injunctive term. That refers to very hotly negotiated, hotly contested reforms to corporate practices built into these settlement agreements. So the companies all had to agree in layman's terms to fairly dramatically overhaul their corporate practices related to the promotion, sale, distribution of opioids, and for pharmacies, their handling of prescriptions, et cetera. So that's Teva. Here's Allergan. Again, the settlement value is 2.02 billion nationally. It's a 7-year payout plan, so a little faster than Teva. There's the ideal, the best case scenario, Pennsylvania share. The same type of injunctive corporate reform that applied in Teva applies here because, again, they are both opioid manufacturers. Walmart, now we bounce quickly to the first of the 3 major pharmacy chains. And you can see Walmart's settlement payment plan is fairly aggressive. It's over a 6-year period. And you see the Pennsylvania best case share there. If we were able to get maximum participation from the political subdivisions. Here, the corporate reform provisions in each of the pharmacy settlements are obviously tailored to what pharmacy chains do. They're very, very complicated. They're complex, and they were arrived at after fierce negotiation and consultation with experts. So it will lead to very significant corporate changes to avoid another opioid crisis. Walgreens, you're going to hear me just repeat this stuff as I already have. 5.52 billion over 15 years. There's Pennsylvania's best case scenario share. Some of the nuances of the settlement that are, again, sort of more down in the weeds than necessary right now, but I invite you, for example, to go to the nationalopioidsettlement.com website and peruse some of this on your own. And then finally, here's CVS, 4.9 billion nationally over 10 years. There's Pennsylvania's share. So that is where things stand. We have an April 18th sign-on deadline for the counties and municipalities to agree. After that, there is a series of events where the defendants will have the opportunity to take a look at the level of participation nationally. And in Pennsylvania, they can decide, unlikely, but they could decide to abandon the settlements if the participation level is not high enough. We view that as a very, very remote possibility. But this is just meant to give the idea of what is potentially to be funneled toward the opioid trust by settlements through the Attorney General's office and the participation of counsel for subdivisions, towns and counties. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Any trustee have any questions of Neil? Hearing none. Heather, while you're up there, I was probably remiss when I was describing the website. Can you bring up that you'd reviewed with me earlier, the website? Sure. As it's now being developed, but you might want to see what the website is looking like right now.
Sure thing. 1 second, just make sure I'm sharing. Make sure that I'm sharing the correct screen. I think they're still seeing the wage settlements here. Okay. So here we have, again, just an internal, this is just a shell of what is proposed for the PA Opioid Trust website. The trust will design all of the content and approve all information being posted about the trust. We have the PA Trust order. That is a link that opens up the order along with Exhibit E. Identification of the trust summary and the purpose and vision of the trust. Below, we identify the Board of Trustees along with an opportunity for the public to contact the Opioid Trust. All of the information coming into the website will be obtained by CCAP and will be processed, and answers will be submitted by the trust based on the trust's recommendations and order. Along with this, there's other identified resources. We spoke earlier about additional information that we could make sure that the public has access to in regards to finding drug deactivation pouches, finding your local drop boxes, getting help, again, just natural FAQs here, and of course the AEG opioid site.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I still see the wave 2 slide. I don't know if anybody else does, and I hate to have you go through this again, but there you go. Thank you.
No problem. So very simple, again, just a quick overview here, the shell of the website, about the PA Opioid Trust, the order, the list of documents, including the summary, a list of the Board of Trustees members, access for the public to contact the trust, and resources. Again, this is still a work in progress. The website, again, was just simply voted upon earlier in this meeting. And so CCAP will begin the development of the content of the site based on the trust's input.
They may want to jot down the address because while it's not public facing yet, it will be.
Very good.
So it'll probably be between meetings, it'll probably come up, I'm guessing.
Yes, so upon trust approval, we will build the outfit of the website. And so the website address will be www.paopioidtrust.org.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Any other questions from any trustee? And we do hope to have it fully up and running by the end of this month. It'll probably come up in, partially up by the middle of this month, with us now having approved the agreement with CCAP. So we look forward to being fully operational on that. Thank you.
I'm not sure what it's doing. Share.
One other thing I wanted to mention, it's on the agenda and not to be voted on, but I did want everybody to know that we are entertaining a proposal by Penn State, University of Pittsburgh, Temple to help with the development of the informational requests that we're going to be making to all of the payees, for them to supply information to us as to how the money was spent, so that we can meet our obligation of saying that everybody is using the money in accordance with Exhibit E. We're trying to find balance of getting sufficient information to make sure the money is being spent properly and on the purposes it was intended to be, and at the same time not create a huge administrative burden on the counties, because they have a lot of other work that they are doing. And it's not just the counties, it is also anybody that is receiving money, whether or not it be a municipality or whatever. So we are going to be working with Penn State to help us develop that. I mentioned that they were very instrumental in helping do the analytical work with in helping all of us figure out how the money should be prorated among each of the counties. I think that experience will be very important. They on their own wanted to reach out to University of Pittsburgh, and subsequently we also asked them to reach out to Temple. So I do expect that we are going to have a joint proposal from the three large research related state universities, state-related universities, and we look forward to getting their proposal and the cost proposal so that we can start letting the counties know the kind of information we're going to both need, but also hopefully collecting the data that can let them provide the analysis of what programs really are working best and which ones might be authorized but not working so well. So we will expect that, and I would expect that we will be discussing that at the next meeting. Finally, we are going to be considering obtaining an outside counsel to the trust. We anticipate there'll be a number of questions that might come up of a legal nature as to what the trust has to do as far as evaluating whether the money was spent properly. We don't want to spend a ton on this. I had a proposal where about 50% of it was going to be done pro bono, but unfortunately a conflict arose at the last minute by that law firm. So I'm back to the drawing boards in selecting outside counsel, but we will be selecting outside counsel once again to advise the trust as opposed to advising CCAP or any of the individual payees, so that they can help us make sure that we toe the narrow line in doing everything that's expected of us. Having said that, is there any new business to come before the group? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Kevin Booth.
Moved, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone.